There's just more availability. They're just programmed right now very efficiently. The factories are programmed to be very efficient and very, very quick working. All right, how's everybody doing? Today, the question on the docket is who builds the best prototypes in the world? So first, I think it's important to define what qualifies as best, right? What are the different aspects that you need to consider and look at when you're defining what's best? So I've broken that down into three: cost, quality, and speed. And for the brevity of time, I'm going to just compare the US and Canada, maybe Europe, maybe Australia, that type of a country in comparison to China. You could probably figure out a way to manufacture a prototype in almost any country, right? But just to stay on point and keep the video really clicking, we'll just compare those two. There's also a caveat with the States and Canada especially, is what I'm not talking about in this video is makers at home who have a desktop 3D printer. I'm not talking about a little, hardware shop that you've built in your basement and you have like a portable CNC, right? Because that obviously makes it cost almost nothing. Quality as good as you can be, and speed is going to be as fast as you can work yourself. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to bring that type of a factor, a variable, into the equation. So what we're going to do is talk about professional companies where you're not a maker yourself and you have a concept that you need to get designed, developed, engineered, and prototyped. So let's start with cost, right? And I think right here, this is enough to understand why there's such disparity, right? Labor cost. The average yearly salary for a top-end professional Chinese engineer is about 44,000 US dollars. Whereas the average yearly salary for an American engineer is closer to 100, right? 92, according to this stat we saw. So right there, you're looking at more than double on just the cost of the engineer. Then once you factor in rent, machinery costs, it just continues to compound from there. So when it comes to cost, it's not comparable at all. China will win on cost compared to the countries that I've mentioned for prototyping. So there's that. 1 point for China. The second is quality. So quality, I think, can be broken down into two different types. You're going to have pre-prototyping quality, so engineering, DFM files, right? That stuff is all very important to prototyping. And for this example, we're assuming you don't have that. The second part is the actual prototyping. Whether you're doing a CNC prototype, whether you're doing right out of the mold prototype, like a pre-mass production prototype, 3D printer, there's a bunch of different methods. But depending, on where you're at in the phase, I think this answer can be both, right? Obviously, if you were just to throw a dart at a random Chinese factory, your odds of getting something really high-end is probably quite low. Whereas the odds of doing that in the States is very different, right? I'm sure finding high quality in the States is good, but sometimes that quality is prohibitive because of the other two variables here. So I will go ahead and give the point to the US on this question, although I do think there is a lot of variables that need to be factored in. And are you prototyping in the US and then manufacturing in China? Because if that's the case, you need DFM files, and a lot of the firms I've seen in the US don't make DFM files, right? They made very pretty rendering files. They made things that looked aesthetically pleasing, but then we had to re-engineer them to make sure that the tooling, was feasible, right? So that's problematic. Anyways, I'll give the point to the US, so 1-1. The final point is speed, and this one too, you're gonna have variables, right? But the thing that makes, I think, China have the easy edge here is the fact of how much supply there is of people who can do prototyping. In the US, there's less, they cost more, the demand is high for them, but they just can't do that work, right? They're focused on much bigger orders. And so this comes to MOQ, a minimum order quantity, right? Chinese factories will have much lower MOQs, and because of that, they're willing to take on way more customers with smaller upfront orders, smaller deposits, less money in the bank. So again, there are variables. If you don't know how to communicate with Chinese factories, good luck with speed, right? But assuming that you have good communication or that you're working with someone on the ground that does, China's going to win. There's just more availability. They're just programmed right now very efficiently. The factories are programmed to be very efficient and very, very quick working. So there you have it. Final score, 2-1 China. There's obviously exceptions. There's obviously, like I've mentioned multiple times in the video, lots of variables that can affect things. But I think for the most part, right now, China's making the best prototypes in the world. Good luck.